Hey guys, it is AutumnSkylar, and today we're going to be discussing what they don't tell you about ostomies, because there's quite a bit you don't find out until you get one. And I've got one, and I've learned quite a bit in the past 7 to 8 weeks. So I figured I would share that knowledge with the class. Say thank you, Autumn. You ready? Well, then let's get started, shall we? So starting off strong, we're going to be discussing the fact that any dyes will create colorful output. And output is just a roundabout way of saying poop. I mean, that's what this video is talking about. If you're eked out by that kind of stuff, why'd you click on an ostomy discussion video? Anyways, what happens is that having an excess amount of dyes with an ileostomy, wherein it's in the upper part of your intestines, it makes it so a lot of the dye that goes in comes out the same way, because that dye in of itself is a liquid, and when you have an ileostomy, you're not really absorbing liquids too great. So a lot of it comes out looking the same as it went in, with a little bit of other colors mixed in. You know, the normal colors. But my experience was, an ostomy nurse has said this offhandedly, that if I were to eat red Jell-O while recovering, don't be surprised if my output looks a little red. And I said, okay, and then completely forgot we had that conversation. There was a lot going on. You know, my entire anatomy was changing permanently for the rest of my life. So I was coming to terms with that and kind of forgot a lot of the advice and little factoids that I had been given. And that's common, you know. It's a lot to take in and a lot to take out. Haha, poop joke. There's going to be a lot of those. But what happened was, I really wasn't eating anything with dyes, anything crazy. You know, the Jell-Os that I particularly enjoy are more on the orange and green end of the spectrum, and those dyes aren't as strong as red dye 40, which is just like mega. So I wasn't experiencing any odd output until I came home. See, I have a bit of an addiction. It's a little bit of a little secret factoid about Autumn. I love anything blue raspberry. If there is a blue raspberry version of a thing, that automatically becomes the superior version. And if you think differently, well, it's a different opinion and you're fine, but you're also wrong. So my addiction specifically is to the slushies that I get at Wawa that are blue raspberry, that have that sexy looking polar bear on them. You know the brand, Icy. They should change it to sexy, because damn that polar bear, he knows how to reel me in. And it's with artificial colors and dyes. So I was not getting my favorite blue raspberry slushie while in the hospital recovering, because I knew by the time it would get to me, it'd be all melted and sad. And I didn't want my first experience with a slushie, after going a few weeks without, to be so dismal. And I deserved that right. So within the next few days of being home, my fiance turns to me and says the most romantic thing that he's ever said. Better than, will you marry me? It was, do you want to get in the car and go to Wawa and get a slushie? Ugh. I mean, my heart stopped for a second. My eyes lit up like the 4th of July. I couldn't contain my excitement. I was practically ready to burst because of how much excitement was pulsing through every atom of my being. So we got in the car. I got the largest size of a slushie that I could get, which I think is, it's either 32 or it's 64 ounces. Whichever amount, it's quite a bit of slush. But I need to hydrate anyways, so I figured kill 2 birds with 1 stone, baby. And I like to drink half of it and then put the rest in the freezer, and then eat the rest later like an Italian ice. It's like 2 treats for the price of 1. And the prices of slushies are the most affordable thing for any little treat. And I deserved a sweet little treat. So we got the slush. I drank it up. I was enjoying myself, feeling good, feeling hydrated, and got that rush of adrenaline that I always get from the flavoring of blue raspberry. And then a couple hours passed, and I had completely forgotten about the fact that I had had this delicious treat. And I looked down, and my output is coming out, and I want to say this is probably the color closest to what it was. And I knew that there were certain colors that I had to look out for, like black, because that indicates that there's a large amount of blood. Or red, because that also indicates a large amount of blood. And, you know, odd output colors are things that you need to keep an eye on with an ostomy. I mean, even if you're just going to the bathroom like a normal human being, you would want to keep an eye out for odd colors. And this was the oddest color that I had ever seen come out of me. So I was racking my brain. I'm like, what the hell is going on inside of me? What could have possibly caused this? And then I came to the natural conclusion that I had literally just drank probably at least 32 ounces straight of just pure blue dye, you know, the healthiest thing on the planet. And so then I remembered that one conversation that I had had with an ostomy nurse. Lasted about 5 seconds, and it completely went away from my mind. But now it came back, and I said, I should have been paying more attention and kind of recognized that this was something I was going to have to deal with and remember. Luckily, I'm not a big fan of red dye 40, and I try to avoid it for personal reasons, though I'm not very good at avoiding it because a lot of the things I love have it, but I'm a lot more careful about how much I consume of it. But if the situation were changed and I instead went for the cherry version, dear Lord, I may have made the mistake of going to the ER because that would have been a frightening scene. But luckily, that's not something that I need to deal with or worry about because it's just dye and it's just dyeing your output. So yeah, something that I kind of forgot that I was supposed to be paying attention to. On to the next thing. Number 2. Get it? Number 2. I said there'd be poop jokes. They're not very imaginative, but that's okay. Yeah. You read that right. You have to measure what's coming out of you to make sure that you're not going over or under the amount that's supposed to be coming out of you, given the amount of hydration that's going in and the amount of solids that's going in. And it's also dependent on if you have an ostomy that is in your ileum or if you have a colostomy, which is in your colon. For ileostomies, it's a lot more important because you're really trying to make sure you're not going over 1,000 to 1,500 milliliters. And that is kind of sadly the place that I always tend to end up, is either right on the cusp or just over, just under. But because of that, about once a week, still, I have to measure for 24 hours straight. It's not fun. I remember when I was first having to empty my bag for the very first time. I thought that I'd be emptying it into a commode. And they said, nah, no fam, here's a measuring cup. I said, what? What? You want me to measure it? Now I have no problem with it. You become acclimated to poop, you know. It really starts to not bother you at all. Kind of like when people have a baby and you're just like, oh, it's just poop, you know. It's gonna happen. Gonna have to deal with it. Gotta get over it. Similar in the same vein that there's poop and you gotta just kind of get over it very quickly. And yeah, I know some people in my ostomy support group that are a few years out and they still have to measure their output as well on a weekly basis. And it's like, great. So you're telling me that this might not stop and I might have to keep doing this. One thing in particular is when you have a stomach bug. That is when it is most vital to measure your output, to make sure that you're taking an adequate amount in to offset the amount coming out. And golly gee whizzikers, it is a lot of hydration. A lot of hydration. But yeah, that's one of the things that you might not be told is going to happen before they hand you the measuring cup for the first time. And it's a little, it's an uneasy feeling. Makes you feel a little bit queasy. Makes you be like, oh, I don't want to do that. Don't make me do that. But you get used to it very quickly. So don't worry. Don't be scared. It's going to be okay. On to number 3. There's no poop joke about number 3. But yeah, number 3. What could this sentence possibly mean? Burp your bag? Well, when I learned what I'd be having to doing, similar to the last one, I was a bit horrified for a little bit. But again, you get over it. But what you have to do is, even though I cannot use my butt the way normal people do, you still have gas. That is still just a normal part of digestion. And it's got to go somewhere, and it's going to go out. And since you have a bag attached to your intestines, like I do, it's going to fill up that bag. It's going to fill it up like an overfilled helium balloon at a child's birthday party. And if you don't empty that bag soon enough, you are at risk of it exploding. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I am luckily in the boat of people that my body automatically wakes me up when it's time to empty my bag. Don't know how I managed to luck that out, but I did, and I'm very grateful. Some people have to set alarms, because otherwise it'll explode. Because the amount of pressure and gas, if you just keep putting more into an overfilled balloon, like stated before, you're at risk of explosion. And that's not fun. We want to avoid that. Okay, on to number 4. And then after that, we only have 2 more. So sad. But yeah, on to the next one. You're doing great. This was one that was really hard for me to accept. Your entire wardrobe may need to change. I have always had an affinity for high-waisted pants ever since they kind of made a resurgence in mid-2010s. I accumulated quite a collection over the years, and it became glaringly obvious that not only would I not fit into them because of the amount of weight I had gained from many, many courses of steroids and the paralysis of my colon that led to surgery, but also even if I did lose all of that weight, which is the plan, the bag would not fit into the small, if not inexistent, gap in those high-waisted pants, because they are made to hug every curve. And trying to hug the curve of this, it's not good. You don't want that. You don't want the pressure to build up and then have an explosion in your pants, kind of like the explosions we discussed in the prior one of this. So I had to get rid of, a couple of days ago, all of my high-waisted pants. It was a bit of a funeral, a bit of a memorial. I'm still in a grieving process. And there's also some other pieces of clothing, like certain form-fitting dresses that I know I'm not going to be comfortable in just because my bag is constantly filling up. So I'm never going to have that moment of looking like I don't have a bag. And even if I did have that moment, it would last about 5 minutes before the bag started filling up, because I'm a high output baddie. So yeah, it's a struggle. It's a lot mentally to come around to, and you know, it's not about changing your style to hide the bag. That's not what I'm trying to do, and it's not something I advocate for, though some people feel more comfortable living their life in that way, which is totally fine. Everybody handles a bag differently. It's a big change. But for me, it's also just about comfort. Like, I prefer clothes where they might be more revealing, like a 2-piece set where I have my bag out, but that's more comfortable to me. I don't like there to be any pressure on my bag. I mean, it's out right now, and I'm wearing very large pants that I could fit my bag into, but it's just more comfortable for me to have it out, and that's something that you need to take into consideration. And it's going to take some time for you to figure out what's going to work best for you and what pieces you can realistically keep and which ones you sadly have to give to a new owner. So yeah, that's something that if you're going to be getting the surgery, prepare yourself, because things might have to change. And it might not be a dramatic change, but still, it's a lot to mentally wrap your head around. On to number 5, I think. I kind of lost track. This next one kind of goes along a little bit with the last one. If you choose not to hide your bag, people are going to look at you. They're going to judge you. They're possibly going to make some not nice comments, but usually it'll be behind your back, so at least there's that. I know I've already had some family express behind my back that I should hide the fact that I have an ostomy. I shouldn't tell anybody about it, and I should keep it covered up. I did not follow that advice because that's not even really advice. That's just a judgmental belief. And as I stated previously, I feel more comfortable having my bag out when it's under fabric and there's some pressure against it. It doesn't feel comfortable to me, and that's my right. And you know, I get funny looks when I'm in the store and I have my bag out, but I got funny looks before anyways. I have always used mobility aids, well, not always, but predominantly throughout the past 8 years. And throughout the past 4 years, I have not been able to graduate past a cane. So that has come along with a lot of funny looks. And there's something different about these looks. Before, it was just a lot of pity and confusion. And now they see the bag, and whether it's my own fears that are coloring what I see on people's faces and how I interpret what they are feeling, I'm not sure, but I do feel as though I see some disgust or judgment of a different degree. It's a lot to handle, and it shouldn't be that way. People should just kind of mind their own business. But people suck. And if you have never had something that showed your illness, you know, not just this illness, whatever you might have needed for your ostomy, but if you have other coexisting conditions, if you've never had coexisting conditions that caused mobility deficits or something else that would cause you to need an extra little Barbie accessory, then this might be your first time experiencing that, and that can be rough, and that can be traumatizing. I mean, I know I'm scared every time I go out, but I've tried to just put myself first in that regard, because people are going to look at me funny for whatever reason they've come up with in their mind that makes it okay in their head to look at me funny. So I might as well just do whatever the hell I want and not even give whatever look they're going to give me any time of day within this head of mine. That's the only real piece of advice I can give. Doesn't make it any easier, doesn't make it less uncomfortable to have those looks, but it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the person on the other end of those looks. So do whatever the hell makes you comfortable. On to the final one, 6, I think. Not entirely sure, but we're gonna go with 6. Finally, the biggest thing that I did not anticipate or was really given a bit of a heads up about. It may take a long time to find the products that are right for you. You would think going into this, as I thought, that all products are kind of the same, and why wouldn't any product work for me. I kind of just thought that there was a bunch of different brands out there with a bunch of different types of bags that, you know, I really thought that the only difference were 1 pieces and 2 pieces. You know, a 1-piece system is just where the bag is attached to the wafer itself, you know, and it can't come apart. I use a 2-piece system. And I thought that there was a difference between high output and normal output bags. And I didn't really think much else of it until I started experiencing issues with the bags that they were using on me and the wafers that they were using alongside those. And then when I was transferred to a rehabilitation unit to work on my walking, I worked really closely with the ostomy nurse there, and we realized and talked about how the products that I was using were not right for the ostomy and the stoma that I have, that everybody's stoma is different and requires different types of products. For me, I need a convex wafer, meaning instead of the wafer being flat against the skin, it has like a groove almost that helps to keep the stoma propped up. Because I got a little one on me. I got a little baby, and it likes to go in and out. It doesn't always like to stay out of my abdomen like it's supposed to, which can be very frustrating. But the convex is what helps. And everybody's situation is different. And that's why there is this whole range of products. I mean, I thought that the reason there were different brands was just literally branding. Like the way that there are a bunch of different wheelchair brands, but they're all selling pretty much the exact same product, if you know what I mean. I didn't realize there was such a difference. I mean, even going so far as to discuss certain Coloplasts, which is a vendor between Hollister, a different vendor, that the wafer itself for Coloplast is designed to work better without wipes, these barrier wipes that make it so your skin doesn't break down a crazy amount from being attached to this wafer, you know, for 3 to 5 days. And it was just such a learning curve to recognize that there's a lot that I didn't know that I thought I knew going into this. I had no idea that I would go through so many issues that were directly related to having the wrong type of wafer and bag. I had so many leaks in the beginning because I didn't have the right product, and I didn't really know that that was going to be such a big deal. I really thought that I knew everything going into this because I had done so much research, but clearly I did not do enough. But whatever the case, I think that you could do as much research as I did, you know, months of research, and do even more, and there's still going to be a bunch of stuff going into this surgery that you're not going to be able to prepare for, honey. You're not going to know that it's something you should have known until it happens, and you know that it's something that happens. You know what I mean? It's a tricky area. I hope that this video was at least informative to a degree and helps prepare for some of these issues, but there's still a whole, dozen at least other issues that I was not prepared for, that I didn't even mention in this video. If I went through all of them right now, I'd be sitting here for about an hour talking, which I could do, but I won't. So anyways, I hope that this video was helpful. And if you are somebody that's going to be going into surgery, don't be scared. That's an easy thing to say. It's easy as hell to say, but think about how good you're gonna feel in a few weeks. Because I feel really, really freaking good. I would do it all over again. You know, I wouldn't make a different choice. If anything, the only different choice I would make would be getting the surgery sooner, because I didn't have to be living in the hell I was living in as long as I was living in it. So anyways, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed. And if you want another video like this where I talk about some of the other things that you're not told to prepare for about ostomies, hell, I'll do it. I'll sit down and make a talking video again. I've got no qualms with that. Anyways, hope you have a good one. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.